That's enough of this. It's nice that, you know. Nothing like this one, which sits over here and screams away. He's fine in the defender.
That way's the next.
Very successful. We're seeing some of its competitors here, Union Grenadiers, are all here too, so that's all part and parcel. 506 just hitting up the hill now, so it's a slightly different 56 continuation. On a basically racing car from the 2030s, exactly. When I really celebrating the history of the M5, but I think it makes the car really usable. No one actually does track days in their M5, and I'm very interested to drive this car and just see how it performs with that electric boost to its V8. I think that's going to go over here. I think you go all the way to the V10. It's quite light thing. And yeah, this is slightly different machinery, of course. This is made to manufacture, so this is one of them. And the British Scandinavia. They're everywhere, so they are definitely selling them in Scandinavia. You do see them up the hill right now.
We're wading the river, you know.
Just for electric motors, they can just, it's quite a fun to see it being done. He doesn't really care tarmac or glass. No, I think this might have to run with the FP as well. But yeah, really good to see Polestar. Just not one of the doing good for the cars. Like going out on a glider rather than an airplane. Here's the silent. Wow, it's pretty impressive, but as you say, shot up the hill pretty rapidly at this point. We're seeing a bit more action from that over the course. We've got somebody Alfie's heading out as well onto the circuit, and also, of course, it's got slightly different door and that here all written on the front of it. Slightly more horsepower, and he just couldn't get over how people were tuning them and having body kits and having it's really the black badge coming in Series 2. They're very just lovely, and I can quite understand it's a piece within a movie. I do like the Rolls-Royce of creating these cars for customers really. So that's generate a good look. It's pretty practical, of course, it's over 37. So this will be a different still looks great. It's funny how we get sometimes look a bit stale as we move on, but there are others that just look at the Western automotive world and do it as well. What if they've Europeanised the brand? Machinery that is part mining in one of them. Let's pop it on here to Williams. Come this way. I'm going to distract the barrier. Sorry, pardon me. Hello. Just going to follow the camera to Pablo Montoya car on the Friday, and this fantastic FWA championship winning car from 1982. The Motorsport car is the big BMW engine, by the way. 104 horsepower, 19,800 RPM. Guess what? If you're listening, you'll hear all of it because we are running the engine to full flares here. So we keep wandering up because we got from it's like a 2-3-year-old show car that they're running, so that's a bit of noise hopefully. And then we got Ferrari. Ferrari, this is...
I'll try here, there's always...
For anyone who grew up watching the like hero cars, you remember this. This was beautiful. Where he won the championship. You got some of the more modern ones here, and you can just see, this is what I love about Goodwood. You can see the contrast between the modern cars on thinking and all the pickup bits and this detail put on the front wing, the ones. Let's just move along here. You can see there's a Kimi Raikkonen Ferrari up here as well. This is the 2007 car. Ferrari's last World Championship win, by the way, still. Drivers World Championship win. That was Raikkonen in 2007. And look at this, the Mans winner. It's won 2 years in a row, 50 and 51. Both cars that have entered the I wonder where they are. I'm going to have a quick switch around the corner. Come here this weekend with a big presence of not just F1 cars, but then the reason we had it.
You find the driver to give it a different weight distribution, which is rear cars weighting to make it drive like a typical supercar. It will be absolutely flying. This is great to see. The look has changed quite dramatically in Aston's over the years, but we do get our eyes on the McLaren Solus GT, the McLaren single-seat. Glorious to see. It really is a machine like no other. And again, a manual original spikes rather than the 3 on the standard car. Yeah. You don't get much ever produced by Aston Martin. Gets it as heading out on to the track now. The ultra hot track only. This one somehow they made it road legal. 1,015 horsepower, I think they are. Since the F50. Yeah, and a retractable roof on that as well. Works driver at the wheel of this. There's some sense the best design Aston Martin to be It's an individual commissioned it. He did the round lights in front of the something like that from its huge engine. It's even more powerful than the 177, and again it's gearbox. The car the 80s never had. Well, we weren't there in the 80s. You needed to get to the late noughties to get one of that. Well, the 2020 before that one was character very much getting a wonderful view. And all, I think that's the Ferrari. I've been lucky enough to drive it. 600 and some
horsepower, but it's not the most expensive front engine. It's like, I don't want to say junior range, but it is affordable. It's one of those cars I keep looking for. Spider version of one of those. I always like spiders.
So every car that comes by, it sounds like.
Supercar run. That's why we come along. Supercar GTI. It's funny because we're European and it's obviously American. And
McLaren P1.
When it came out, this was there were 3 cars to get Norse like this. Chris Goodwin, when they were trying to set a lap time with it, and it was 6 minutes, so I never actually got the time. It didn't really exciting, and it has DRS.
I think Maruno Frankie might be at the wheel of that. The ride of his life, I would expect.
No, I think it's an alternative. It's a very good one because it is zero emissions, just produces water out of the exhaust pipe.
Turbo GT making its way up the hill. Seconds, 300 kilowatt max power as well. This though, a bit different. Porsche Lausanne 933.
Cars to age their 80s. Various motor companies have managed to turn this into a road-going Porsche 935. They've done 2 conversions up top.
3.8 litre flat 6 twin turbo, 700 brake horsepower of these 2.
Rattlesnake green is the livery colour.
It's a new era for Porsche, and developed by evidence of automotive design.
It's in a single seat. I'm trying to look at it.
Yeah, it is.
Right. Yeah. I need to find out more about that, so I'll look at it tomorrow.
A central seating position as well, and it was in a 21. I think as Alain Prost's Belgian 1987 Formula 1 race winning game, that Porsche, according to Lausanne. This weekend, and we have several different versions of the MC20. This is the Icona.
Yeah, when precisely the colours, the launch colours of the MC12 that we all love. And then went racing with the Corsa version. But MC20, this is Maserati's supercar, so V6, 620 horsepower. They wanted to make it more livable car. It's what you Maserati over Ferrari, and they do this also in a Spider version, an all-carbon construction, unlike Ferrari.
Pay homage to that MC12. Unlike any other Maserati, plenty of supercar action to keep the appetite strong.
That was good. And the weather's with us as well, isn't it? It's fantastic. Can't wait to watch.
Well, just to look back at when we originally kicked off the action with the Lotus Evija. Back underway, Aston Martin in full force. The McLaren Solus GT, the hypercar single-seater central seating position as well. And Aston Martin showcasing. Action across the weekend. Gordon Murray's come along at once?
Absolutely. We did have an order of T50, that's now in production. The road to the UK is quite complicated. T33 were in development for this, heavy development. It's supposed to be work, but it's really not. It's particularly quick, and yeah, a lot of punches that are tweaking this a little bit. You do seem to have a wonderful job, at least you seem to be smiling every time I see you anywhere near these cars. It's not work, is it, Gordon? If you're watching, it's really hard work. No, I think it's so much fun. I love the amazing start. Filling in the drive, from the mixer and thing into place, and it's just exciting.
Yeah, don't speak too soon. We're just keeping quiet about the weather for now. But
My brother's on the nails.
your brother gets to play with a very nice singer as well. You two people got it sorted out. How come you somebody tell you something when you were younger? Jobs to have when you're older.
Yeah, I think it's honestly the passion for cars that our mum and our dad had and passed on to us, and you know, you see the result of that now, and thank God they did pass that passion on, because I don't know what else I would have done.
And to be fair, the passion comes out in the products you're working on, which is wonderful for all of us.
Well, when you get to work with teams like I do and like Marino does,
It's like you need to concentrate. It must be even more so on the hill.
yeah, on the hill, especially with 50s, this is a track car only. 50s made for the hill, actually, moving around the bumps. This thing's a bit more track focused, so you spin the wheels up into the limiter going by the house there. So yeah, it's gonna pay attention.
In this one all weekend?
In this one weekend.
You look forward to seeing it.
Thank you. Section of the paddock, we've got the 2023 Jota Ford 963. This car was really like along my property here. Going back in time to 1976 with the Ford 966 driven by the great Jackie Higgs, and this stunning Jaguar I actually drove this car on my second visit to the Festival of Speed back in 2011, and the owner kindly invited me to have another go on Saturday, so I'm super excited. But just I love the proportions of it, and the colour. It's just, for any fan of motorsport from the 80s and the 90s, that's got to be one of the most iconic cars. The McLaren 1996, the original one, the long-term version of it. The 95 car was the Le Mans winner. This one ran in 1996 in a longer version. You see just on the rear of the car. The Lancia, we've got the Matras, some Alpine tracks, so many. So many love to use the Festival of Speed. Low, it's lean, it's powerful.
As well, chuck that in there, 0 to 62 in 3 seconds, so ultra fast as it navigates through the chicane that's placed there perfectly to slow these cars down, whichever driver they may have. the Lotuses. An awful lap heading, big supporters of the red cars. We've already seen the new Amaya R and Amaya S earlier on today in the first class batch, and we get treated to some even more Lotuses.
Lotus has had a bit of a departure in their design philosophy over the last few years to really kind of, to something, it's very different. I know you've got a penchant for BMWs, Alex.
I do like one of their brand new M5. It's not what is being demonstrated at the moment. We had plenty of BMW action earlier on.
Circuit was the replacement for the Ford Fiesta being distanced forward, which is making its way onto the hill climb now. And we were just having a little chat about these here. We're with their vehicles out on track. We've got the things like the Grenadier out on there as well.
As well, doesn't it? Yeah, we do some tankers in the media drive day and also the day. Yeah, because the tank only have a limited area for us to do. So we actually do a tanker on a bit just in
now, try and navigate the going up past the cliff wall.
Broke down just a little bit before the end of the race. The Indy 500 was perhaps more of an event that didn't win, and then they weren't allowed to run anymore. So that is all past. And this is Fight Pit. I think it's called Chef. Oh, I don't know. It's not in this race. Yeah, just heading out.
So this limit
Right. And the MC12 GT1 was an extremely successful Dakar.
also echo.
So now this is a 3 to V6 turbo. Generate a lot of downforce. It's amazing. You've got that big rear wing, but front end as well. With the likes of
yeah, it's lovely with all the bits. Now the BMW Pro.
Sportscar racing world.
Yeah, certainly did. Holly at that stage. Now, this is a famous car, and this, who I was talking about,
Alex Summers is driving it now.
flies up, look at the dust going through, goes to the
Beats and
Well, they say it's a tribute, don't they?
Yeah.
1960.
you don't see driving this. Doing the shootout, fascinating machine. This is done by Ford, and they created the one part is there. So we shall see just how rapid it will be more as we go through the courses, championships of 2019 and
3 minute Ang driving the car going through saying track size in the grandstand for